So welcome back to the show with Reem and Nina. Delighted to say we're joined by Sam McAlister, the journalist responsible for securing the now infamous interview with Prince Andrew. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great to see you. And I was last night watched Scoop. So this is the hit new film on Netflix. It's called Scoop. You are played by...
Billie Piper.
Billie Piper.
It's insane.
That must be so crazy to just see. And I know you've met her and you've been photographed with her. What's it like seeing an actor play you?
It's completely bonkers, because obviously we're all asked throughout life who would play you in a movie.
Yeah.
But, you know, you never think it's actually going to happen. So it's next level surreal.
Yeah.
And she looks so similar to me by the end of the process that people got us confused on set.
Really?
Even some media got us confused. So it's really next level surreal, meta, incredible.
Was there anything where you thought, oh, Billie, I don't do that thing when I, you know, or I don't travel on the bus or whatever it was?
Oh, I do travel on the bus. I do eat kebabs, and I do wear lots of lip gloss, and I do have a bouncy walk, and I'm never knowingly in any colour other than black.
Okay.
And I only wear basically unnatural fabrics. So poor Billie, I made her sweat.
Well, I must say, as I said, I watched it last night. I've been obsessed with the Prince Andrew interview because we talked about it a lot. I thought Scoop was brilliant. Let's just have a look.
This stays in this room, just the four of us. If it leaks that we're even meeting, they could get spooked. Sam, whatever you need, it's yours.
Actually, there was one thing. I think it will help a lot.
Name it.
Emily.
I've never been smuggled into a palace before.
Light. We don't scare them off. We play nice. Be respectful.
So we then have the meeting with you, Emily, the unnamed producer, and Andrew, and in the way they portray it, you are a bit too blunt. You say, look, you've got an image problem, you need to sort it out.
Well, you see, I don't think I am too blunt. I think I'm perfect. Because obviously the outcome was a good one. Obviously you have to truncate it. And really the essence of how I negotiate is with bluntness and with honesty. And factually, he had a problem. The problem was that people had a perception of him. The perception was that they inferred that he was guilty of the things that he was accused of, which he vigorously denies. That was my genuine opinion. So my genuine opinion was, if you have an image problem, you need to do something to counteract it. And of course, what better than a BBC Newsnight interview with Emily Malis?
And we see there Emily going into the palace. And what was the chemistry like between him and her?
It was perfect. I mean, I think there's a really complementary chemistry between the three of us. Stuart McLean was actually the producer. He was the deputy editor at the time. So you had, you know, Stuart's very sensible and pragmatic. Emily's obviously a star and can give editorial content. And I'm direct and I answer questions honestly. And I am able and capable of calling Prince Andrew Randy Andy to his face. I don't know many BBC producers who would do that.
And you did that? OK, right, because that's in Scoop. So there he is. Now, let's have a look at the bit of Scoop where we see the actor Rufus Sewell playing Prince Andrew.
Am I right in thinking you threw a birthday party for Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, at Sandringham?
No, it was a shooting weekend.
A shooting weekend?
Yes, just a straightforward shooting weekend.
So it's funny because
Brilliant, isn't it?
it's one of the all-time great lines.
Yeah, perfect.
And I was saying, when I was messaging Sam yesterday about coming on, I said, oh, I love that quote. It was a perfectly ordinary shooting weekend. And you corrected me.
I'm so sorry. I did correct him. I mean, you know, it's a straightforward shooting weekend. An iconic response, which obviously completely missed the point, which so many of his answers did. And Rufus, incredible.
Yes, and actually I think I never know whether actors should be impressionists, but sometimes you have to, Nina, don't you?
I think you do, but he seemed to kind of embody him.
Yes.
You know, he was brilliant, and it's fantastic because Rufus Sewell, I've seen him in the flesh, and he is a stunningly attractive man. I mean,
Well, did he have latex on or something?
It's 3 hours of prosthetics.
Yeah.
So he went from 3 hours. So he went from a stunningly attractive man to
Prince Andrew.
To Prince Andrew. We'll just leave that there. It's a lot of plastic. Yes.
he's a man who once stepped out with Madonna. I think. You know.
Yeah.
So I just think she's sort of you know.
I thought. I mean, obviously it's an hour-long interview, and there was so much in it. You must have felt, oh, we've got to put this in and that in. You had the greatest hits in there. You had the famous, well, I don't sweat, of course. Funny. Oh, no, actually, no, I do. No, I don't.
You're auditioning right now.
Listen, I've watched this so many times. And then the thing about Pizza Express.
Oh,
and
God.
what you see when I know you two have watched clips, you've got to watch the whole thing. What you see is Billie Piper, a.k.a. Sam, in the background trying not to laugh. And I wondered if you were doing that.
Well, I have what I would call resting producer face, which is that you have to show no emotion. I used to be a criminal defence barrister, and often clients would tell me interesting alibis and stories and explanations. So not reacting to that is hugely important, because in all seriousness, if I'd shown emotion or derision or surprise or any of those emotions, that could have obviously changed the dynamic of the room. So you have to be super careful with your face.
Yeah.
So mostly I was probably looking at the floor, to be honest.
The tragedy of it, I suppose, from Andrew's point of view, is that you were definitely fair with him. They asked him every question. I didn't think in the interview that you took a view that he was a very bad man. You just said, look, what's the defence here? He goes to the bath during the interview, and in the bath he can hear the interview. He's not even watching it. And then he thinks he's been a great job. And obviously he did think he'd done well, didn't he?
He did. At the end of the interview, there's this extraordinary moment where you lift your eyes from the carpet to survey the room. And, you know, factually, Emily and the other journalists, we all looked ashen because we knew what we had. And he looked very pleased. So one infers he took Emily on a tour of the palace, or Gillian Anderson, as the case may be. Yeah. It's all become a bit confusing to me. But, you know, he really thought he had done well.
And you can see, yeah, because the tour photos are from after the interview when he was completely relaxed. And brilliant by Gillian Anderson as Emily as well.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. So, look, stay with us, Sam. We've got some more stories from the papers to look at. YouGov has a poll, and it shows royalty and their popularity. And actually, I can show you it here. So right at the top, I mean, we are going to end up talking about Prince Andrew again here. Catherine, Princess of Wales. Although she's off work at the moment, 76% positive. You've then got William, Anne, always good. We love Anne here. The King is on 63, is in fourth. And oh my goodness, Sam, look at Prince Andrew, 6%.
But who are those 6%?
Who are those? Yeah, that 6% must be, quite sympathetic people.
Well, Meghan is not that far, but she's on 26, so that's going. Do you think there's anything he could do to turn it around, Sam?
I really don't. I think that, you know, the court of public opinion, which watched this interview, and obviously he still rigorously denies the allegations against him, the nation drew its own conclusions, and I just don't think there's a way back in the national consciousness for him. The
mistake seems to be that when Emily mentioned victims, instead of saying, oh, I just made it all up, he should have said, look, I wasn't involved, but I am so sorry about what happened to those girls.
I think it's the point.
His friend was a paedophile.
Ever.
But A, badly advised, because obviously he's a man who's gone through life just being thrilled to be within his own skin, not noticing anybody else. He's boorish, thick, all of the things that people have talked about for years, and this has kind of culminated in this.
My only other question is whether it's true, and I know you haven't seen the whole thing, but you'll see. Sam and Emily sit down with Andrew to talk about doing the interview. And at the end, he makes this appalling joke where he says, oh, I was closer friends with Jimmy Savile. Did he say that?
That's artistic license.
OK. I did think that was incredibly crass, actually.
But they were friends, Charles and Andrew. They knew Savile and they mixed with him. Charles has been criticised on
Margaret Thatcher, everybody.
Everybody.
But I mean, that's obviously separate before those allegations and what did indeed happen became public. I think what's interesting with Prince Andrew, though, and the way he's presented in the interview itself, is that he seems entirely unaware of the way he's being presented and actually how he comes across.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a big space between how he perceives himself and how we perceive him. And that's what I call royal delusion. From 59 years of being told you're incredible.
You're incredible.
Sometimes happens to presenters too, Jones.
Oh, well, I know. Fight against it every day. Nina, story about another high-profile gentleman, not quite as famous, William Ragg, MP, who gave the phone numbers of his colleagues to some weirdo online.
Yes, and they've been sort of...
And he's now admitted it, and he's resigning things, it seems, one at a time.
Yes, so you have to be careful because this is a sexual story and everything you say. He's resigned the whip, so you think, no, don't mention that. And he's the vice...
I didn't even go there.
But also, he's the vice chairman, and you think, no, please don't go there either.
The vice whip, yeah, OK. But is there anything to say about this guy? He's obviously not going to be in the Commons after the election.
But he's an idiot. I mean, fancy sending intimate photographs of himself. I mean, that's... idiotic. You know, you think this is an MP who's supposed to be taking care of his constituents, who has some modicum of intelligence.
But 2 of the MPs who were then contacted by this weirdo called Charlie, they sent naked photos.
Well, it shows that the kind of level of idiots we've got running our country.
I don't know. What do you make of that, Sam? This story.
Well, I think these things are very tricky because obviously people are entitled to a life where they're looking to date people and do these kinds of things.
But not in public.
But I agree with Nina that the big problem here is judgment. You know, if I were an MP, which I never will be, I would not be sending pictures of myself in these circumstances because of hundreds of stories like this.
Are we all of a mind that sending naked photos of yourself to anyone ever, even your spouse, is a bad idea? Are we of that mind?
Yes, not necessarily.
We're not.
No, I'm not. And I think it's kind of naive to assume people won't be doing that because people do that.
But isn't it always bad?
It's idiotic.
No, if you're between you and your partner and if you've got
what
that
if you
level
split
of
up?
trust. But again, I mean, do you trust your partner is the point, right?
Well, I just think, I don't know, I just can't, I'm sounding like my mum here. Why does anyone ever do it? It always goes wrong.
My advice to all young people is don't do it. But the reality is they are going to do it. And I think we have to be true with ourselves and actually be honest with ourselves. And this happens every day.
Sam, there's a story in the Telegraph which is very interesting where they've gone after the parents of a lad who did a shooting spree at a school.
This is an extraordinary case, actually. It's completely tragic. I used to be a criminal defence barrister, so it's an extension of the law because effectively what's happened is these parents are the first ones to be imprisoned in America for failing to stop their son from killing 4 young people who were massacred in his school. Now, that seems like quite a stretch legally, but when you read into it, the reasoning is they've been convicted of manslaughter. He was 15. They gave him a gun for his birthday.
You give a 15-year-old a gun? Of course they've got to be
Who'd
jailed.
also said he had mental health problems and he was worried.
Did they lie to the school? Sam, did they lie to the school as well? Was that part of it? The school called them in?
The school pulled them in. He'd done some pictures of a gun. They didn't specify that it was his gun that he'd been given as a birthday present. It was unlocked. It's just a catalogue of horrors which culminated in these 4 young people losing their lives.
And the parents have got 10 years?
10 to 15 years. They've done 28 months and they're obviously, horrifically sorry about it, but it's just an extraordinary and terrible case. But, birthday present, a 15-year-old child.
But it's the culture, isn't it? I mean, this really does speak to the level of depth that guns have really entered American culture. Yeah. It's so normal in these remote communities for a child, a 15-year-old child, to be gifted a gun for their birthday. Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah. And it's something that
the trouble. It's not even rural communities. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when they had COVID, we went and stockpiled loo rolls. They queued at gun shops for a virus. Ream in the Mail. Rihanna slammed for what?
Yes, so this is really interesting. It's all over social media. She's slammed for a provocative magazine cover where she's dressed in a white, sexy nun outfit, and the Mail calls it religious mockery. I think it's interesting. There's been a lot of controversy around this and particularly debate. Some people are calling this unholy imagery. Some people are sort of saying, well, it's an artistic rigor. It's part of her new look, and it is part of that artistic expression. I think it's interesting. My view is actually that, you can do what you want, and if this is the way you want to express it, that's fine. Understandable why some religious Christians would be offended by it, though.
Yeah, I don't know. The phrase sexy nun outfit is not one I've heard before, just to say. But
it's not the first I've heard of it, I must say. I mean, it's...
Is it wrong, Sam? What do you think?
Well, I think, it's Rihanna. She's got a lot of headlines out of it, so it's probably done the job that she wanted it to do. I think wrong is a stretch, but obviously risky. But everything's risky nowadays with this kind of look.
And now we're all talking about it.
Look at the fuss that Madonna caused. I'm mentioning Madonna twice on a programme. When she did Papa Don't Preach, and that video with her with a crucifix and God knows what else.
Look at her name, Madonna, at the time.
Well, exactly. So she's been there and done it, 20 years ago.
It seems to be, though, people say people always go for Christianity because they know the Christians are never going to be that angry.
I think
they don't go for other religions.
If this was to do with Islam, and I'm saying this as somebody that grew up Muslim, if this was to do with Islam, the reaction would be very, very different.
Slightly, yeah. Sam, male, I was turned down for a job that I was perfect for because I didn't, this is not me speaking, because I didn't...
What job
He's definitely wearing makeup.
Do you want the list? Because I didn't wear makeup in the interview, is that right? Who's saying this?
Well, that wouldn't happen to me, clearly. I'm always slapped with slap. This woman, Melissa Weaver, she says she was rejected for a VP job based on her appearance. And, you know, in truth, she did an interview. She thought she'd done a great job. She said she was fantastic. And then she asked for feedback as to why she didn't get to the second round. And the feedback she was given, this is in America, was that it was based that she didn't really make enough effort with her appearance. And she's drawn the conclusion that that meant she didn't wear makeup because she'd bought a nice new outfit.
We can actually see, let's have a look, we can see her talking.
So I thought it went great, but then I get an email from the recruiter saying that I'm not going to be moving on to the next round. I was really bummed because I wanted the job, but I was also very confused. So I did something I never do, and I emailed her back and asked for feedback. And she was concerned that for my interview, I hadn't put in enough effort in my appearance given the level of role I was interviewing for. I was interviewing for a vice president position. And now my appearance, I had done a blowout for my hair, I had on a nice top, a blazer, some earrings, but I only had on chapstick. I didn't have any makeup because I don't really wear a lot of makeup, not to be quirky, I just don't.
I don't know. What do you think?
I just think it's a really tricky one because obviously she strongly believes it. You know, they gave feedback. I think the foolish part of the story, to be honest with you, was the feedback. I mean, if you get in touch with someone and say why, and to a woman in particular, you say, oh, it's your appearance. You're a hostage to fortune. And now it's a global story. So don't give this feedback.
I completely agree. I do think the particular issue is the feedback. But honestly, I mean, I do think there's a level of arrogance is to sit there and say, well, I was perfect for the job. Well, if you were perfect for the job, you would have got it.
But is it acceptable, Nina, for them to say, look, I'm sorry, we need you to put some makeup on?
Well,
but they didn't say that.
There was a debate some
if
years
that's what
ago
they're saying.
about they had this whole thing about should women have to be made to wear high heels?
Yeah, well, it was our friend Nicola Thorpe who took that case, yeah.
Absolutely. So this is verging on this, and at the moment you can still say about makeup, and particularly say you're in a forward-facing role, like a receptionist, and a company has a particular image, then they want to project something. Like, for instance, would you get a job as a beautician or selling makeup in a department store if you didn't wear makeup? So you think
you raise a good point. Would you get... Storm is here. What do we think about this? Would you be able to get a job as a perfume assistant if somebody smelt like a cabbage patch?
Well, not if you smelt bad, but that's different, isn't it? If you had a shower and you smelt fairly good that day, it might be beneficial that you don't smell of any other fragrance other than the one you're trying to
What about the
sell.
makeup thing here?
I feel really bad if it's true. I mean, I don't know if it's true. We have no idea. We haven't heard from the people that were interviewing her. But I really hope that this isn't still happening. I know that it has happened in the past. It happened with heels. There's lots of jobs where you're asked to wear certain things. I think there was an airline where you had to wear a certain colour of lipstick.
If you had Mike Parry here, he would say that...
Well, he said he likes air stewardess
I mean, I remember him saying, the reason I get on a plane is to meet attractive women.
Yeah,
or something like that, you know.
I think it's totally fine for an employer to require anything of their employees. I think it's absolutely fine.